Sonic Adventure is the most schizophrenic thing I've seen since I looked in the mirror this morning. So many voices, all telling me to do different things. This one wants me to hurt people. Yeah, Sonic had a rough transition to the third dimension. It's a meme now, but it was life for those poor Japanese developers that had to do it. After Sonic 3 and Knuckles on the Genesis, most of the Sega Technical Institute pranced off back home to work on new projects for the Saturn to show that they were more than just the fleshy puppets for his divine will. The members of STI that stayed behind in America, where development on the latter two Genesis games had taken place, well, they were meant to give the blue blur the 3D treatment in Sonic X-treme. Yuji Naka, one of the original producers and programmers behind the series, supposedly looked at the development footage of X-treme and just said, "Good luck." So that didn't last long. Soon, the task to bulk this boy up fell to those who birthed him, and Sonic Team Japan was tasked with making a new 3D Sonic game. Takashi Iizuka was the man called up to direct, and he and the team had ambition. New hardware meant a broadening of scope, and though development for the Saturn seemed to be a little rocky and demoralizing, once it became clear that this thing was going to have to be made for the Dreamcast, that ambition and excitement seemed to skyrocket. The devs even went out to scout real-world locations across South America, so they could create a more vast and realistic landscape than was ever possible when the bits available were in their awkward teenage years. We're also getting new characters to broaden the appeal. 6 playable characters with varying styles of gameplay were all crammed into this package. It's probably one of Adventure's most defining features, aside from the polygon count. That and the new redesigns of our cast, which is something you deeply care about if you're autistic. I like them. Everybody behind the scenes seemed pretty hyped to show this bad boy off. The game finally grew legs and wandered on the store shelves on December 23rd, 1998, and officially gave Sonic's character fresh dimension. I think it would have been more relatable to give him a crippling addiction or family trauma, but I wasn't in the room. What is in the room is my copy of Sonic Adventure DX, so we can crack this thing open and give it a real peek under the hood. Right after I installed the better SADX mod, because for some reason the DX port dunked everybody into a vat of clear coat, and now their reflections hurt my eyes. It's Sonic's adventure, so we'll start with him first. Man, this opening rips. I mean, yeah, the models are being awkwardly puppeted around, but that might just be part of the charm of the game now that we're so far removed from it. They sure ain't fixing this anytime soon, and if a remake comes along, there's no telling how fucked it's gonna be, so can we not just bask at the video game equivalent of most no-budget movies, where vision clearly outpaces technical ability? This opening still gets me excited for a fun adventure. I mean, you would have never seen Sonic move in a space like this before. I think it still kinda works. Before the game proper, we've got a curb stomp, the God of Destruction. Well, that didn't take long. After that, Sonic is sunbathing fortuitously close to Tails' next DUI. We get the chance to explore around the new hub world, but I got a disease, and the only cure is more speed. So let's go make sure our good buddy didn't hit any pedestrians this time. God, Emerald Coast is so fun. It plays like a 3D Genesis level, with its expansive spaces to run around in and snag extra goodies. There are paths that are only accessible if you can keep up the speed, and they reward you with quicker ways to zip through the level. The pacing is immaculate, with sections ramping up the speed and leading to some really fun or gorgeous set pieces, but allowing for those more platform-heavy stretches to give a neat sense of rising and falling action throughout the thing. Plus, there are fucking dolphins dancing around me. A big dolphin even wants to nibble on my bone marrow. That rocks! Plus, this control is the best a 3D Sonic game ever got. It's perfect. There's just the right amount of weight to Sonic when he jumps and moves. It just feels satisfying and intuitive to move around with him here. That's a big shift if you're a boost boy like me. It's a level of control that allows you to spin dash and blaze across these sand dunes while still feeling like the character's movement is dictated more by you and less by the physics engine. It all creates a wonderful package, and each piece of design and implementation complement each other to create a strong opening. We meet up with Tails, and the little squirt tells us he's using the world's only source of renewable energy to power his car, essentially. Somehow, plugging a battery with an infinite amount of voltage into his plane didn't go to plan, and that's why he almost became a little cooked fox and a tiny Hindenburg. We board a train to the Mystic Ruins to meet Tails at his workshop, so he can show us more ways he's being an unwitting pawn for natural gas companies. We're interrupted by this fucking asshole. I think if the Lolita Express existed within the Sonic canon, it would have a very breakfast-themed accoutrement, if you catch my meaning. Could somebody email Ian Flynn about that, please? The egg hornet, huh? When you coming out with the egg mobility scooter, you fat ass. This boss battle is only slightly less pathetic than the previous one. But hey, this is technically the first real boss if you want to be a pedantic little twerp about it. I mean, it's fine. I like it because I can spin into him. But once I put the controller down and my soul is no longer connected to the blue one, he becomes some kind of vegetable, only able to cycle through a few keyframes. I say this because Tails' dumbass pulled out his rock, and the fastest thing alive was not able to outrun a claw that could at best be described as moving quick. I guess Eggman taught the God of Destruction into working for him for benefits or whatever those are. Okay, so we now know that it's a race between us and Eggman to nab those emeralds. Otherwise that will have ultimate power and do a holocaust and some strange take on Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor scheme. Then it'll become something worse than a landlord. Frankly, that's what's at stake here. The next Chaos Emerald is in Windy Valley, another stage that takes classic Genesis level design cues and extrapolates them into a roller coaster ride of a 3D level. This time, we're moving vertically as we ascend through different set pieces. We're climbing a mountain, attaining dizzying heights, and somehow we make it out of this tornado without the winds turning Sonic's flesh into a fine red mist. The pacing continues to have a wonderful balance between automated scripted sequences and platform-heavy moments, too. Well, Tails is afraid of heights, which is a cruel joke played by the bastard god who gave him his hideous deformation, so he needs to blow off some steam. Let's go gambling. To do that, we need to get our first character upgrade by exploring the hub world. The game is pretty good about having scenery change to reflect where you need to go, like where this police barrier was after the Chaos fight. Plus, if you ever do need a hint, there's a floating orb that tells you what to do. It's odd that these characters just accept the advice of this orb, but why not, I guess. If you're curious enough to investigate the sewage system of a major metropolitan area, you get the Lightspeed Shoes, which the orb explains lets us jet across a trail of rings if you're patient enough. I am not. So thankfully this hotel has this crystal ring that makes the Lightspeed Dash windup time approach being tolerable. Use it here to collide with this button to open the doors to Casinopolis. Oh, I guess somehow this establishment is able to give away a Chaos Emerald if you feed the house 400 rings. It's like if casinos let you stack your chips, and if you could climb them like stairs, you get the nuclear battery that's on a high shelf. Can I call this the worst level in Sonic's campaign? I mean, listen, it's not too difficult to fill up on rings pretty quick, especially if you play well enough in the sewer section after the Sonic pinball game. It's just, I fucking hate doing it. Night sucks too. I guess it's more engaging, both visually and mechanically, if you like the card gimmick. My problem is Sonic's movement is dictated by the physics engine simulating gravity, and all I do is move the paddles. I have a rough time making it work. I really do believe that if there is a god, he just likes fucking with people. So there's a monkey typing Shakespeare chance that this portion of the game exists because some dark force animated a bunch of Japanese people to make the world's shittiest pinball physics just to piss me off. Thank the good Lord I can blow off some steam by watching Sonic shower after this sewer portion. You know, even when it confounds me, Sonic Adventure has just got those charming elements, even on top of some upsetting features, like dimples on a burn victim. But hey, guess what? We let the only hope of unlimited renewable energy be taken again. It's because Dr. Eggman is a CIA asset. But once again, he gets the drop on us, this time with pentobarbital, or, as it is more commonly known, purple mist. I sure hope no one did things to my body while I was out. The next Chaos Emerald is in the Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3. This level ain't bad. The platforming isn't anything to phone your mother over, but at least you get the mountain climb in the nude. The real focus here is the snowboarding section, and it's pretty exhilarating outrunning this avalanche and zipping past all the mountaineer skeletons. We're interrupted on our hunt by Knuckles, who goes for my wallet. This leads into one of the game's more embarrassing features, the character battle. Not technically a boss battle, every now and again you'll meet one of the other playable characters and you'll have to smack them around a bit. And they can't do a damn thing about it. Much like in real life though, even if you win, you still lose. In another callback to Sonic 3, Knuckles was a dipshit and got set up by this gelatinous mass. Now we have to fight Chaos again, and damn, boss battles really aren't this game's strong suit. The sitting around and waiting for an opening wasn't that big a deal in 2D because the waiting did not take whatever unit of time you measure forever in. The God of Destruction continues to be easily overcome by this strange-smelling blue rat, so Eggman makes his escape on his new ship, the Egg Carrier. This leads into the first tornado section of the game, and like most of the level gimmicks themselves, it overstays its welcome, but for the most part is a decent translation of how these levels played on the Genesis. The spectacle is neat, going around the Egg Carrier trying to land so we can continue our harassing of this mentally ill old man. Tails is shot down before we make it on board, and we crash land into Station Square. Sonic doesn't seem too concerned, which is unfortunate because that kid is definitely dead. To make matters worse, here's Amy. Some characters just show the fuck up in a given narrative, and now the clingy chick is here because I forgot to text her. Sorry, I was hanging with the boys. Look, I'm ribbing on the pink one here, but that's only because the obsessed girlfriend characterization has never done it for me. It's an accurate portrayal though, for like any woman, she seeks to get in between a healthy male friendship, and now I gotta take a pause from searching for the charred corpse of my little fox friend to go look for Amy in Twinkle Park. It's a fun level at least. It's a little heavier on the platforming as opposed to grand set pieces, which really highlights how perfect this control is. Like in the 2D games, it's a rush trying to keep the speed going across the level design, and it feels so rewarding to do with such fine-tuned movement. Get past the go-kart section and you'll have some fun rooftops to gallivant around like the little blue fruit you are. Turns out, we've just missed Amy. Sonic is a better man than me and decides that the robot can't kidnap her, and thankfully God has blessed us with a key card to give us access to Speed Highway. A place that I can tell you right now, will not have her. You know, progression through the hub worlds may not be designed in a super engaging way mechanically, but there's enough going on that I still like them. Little things like the day, sunset, night aesthetic of Station Square, or that when the train is down to funnel your progression, the NPCs will complain about striking rail workers to give an in-universe explanation. If you do get lost, the hubs are also compact and easy enough to navigate. I'm just directionally challenged. Speed Highway is another standout level. This one has a chef's kiss blend of speed and momentum-based platforming mixed with those big scripted moments. We're so speedy we can run across the skyscrapers, and when that doesn't work, we get to take a chopper through the city. There's even a more open town square we plop out in after this intense auto-running section that gets a little cinematic in its presentation. All around a fun ride. Emerald Coast still has my heart, but this does have it all. There's also no gimmicks that overstay their welcome. It's quick and fun design leading to a nice set piece and an expansive section to breathe afterwards. One of the best. We sure do look like an idiot at the end though, because Amy is nowhere to be seen in this level. Some wandering around will send you back to the Mystic Ruins to cut off Eggman's robot built solely to grab things. Then we watch Amy die. Sonic still has hope because he is a very foolish hedgehog, so we need to explore Angel Island for a final character upgrade, the Ancient Light. It is so cool that I get to breathe right next to the Master Emerald. The Ancient Light is kind of nice. It just makes your Lightspeed dash home in on enemies. Because I get kidney stones and the time it takes the dash to charge up, I don't really use it, but it's been known to do extra damage against a boss later. We use our new upgrade to kill this security monkey and gain access to the next stage, Red Mountain. This one is another favorite. Adventure really likes to put you high in the sky to give you a sense of scope, and it works on me every time. So does jangling keys if you do it with enough gumption. Ziplining around the mountain really highlights that scope, and all the areas as we climb feel organically connected in a platforming level sense. This one just flows together real well, and we go a little harder on the straight platforming once we make it into this narcoleptic volcano. You know, something I really appreciate about Sonic level design is how distinct level sections feel as we progress through an area, even if it's only aesthetically. It provides scope and a fun way to tell a progressing narrative through the setting. This is what Sonic levels have always been great at on the Genesis, so you can see how that design mindset was squeezed in here. I don't really know what Sonic's plan was upon reaching the summit. Perhaps you could grow giant blue bat wings and look sick as hell. Oh hey, our little buddy isn't, mush. Tails is awesome. This is the best video game friendship of all time, and if you try to argue this point, I am armed. We may be having to rescue the ball and chain from a man with a concerning girth, but by God, Tails is willing to help a brother out, no questions asked. If my wife and child were murdered, I know Tails would help me attach the testicles of the perpetrator to a pair of jumper cables hooked up to the Tornado 2. We've all got that one guy. We get a second act of Sky Chase that's a little more intense. Personally, I say they should have just made one really good tornado section instead of two if the style is going to be so much greater than the substance.
Whoops. I forgot something.
What's that?
There's no landing gear in this mode.
Yeah, hey, maybe that's why you keep crashing, you stupid animal. We made it to the egg carrier, but there's still some work we have to do before we can pull Eggman's teeth out. The egg carrier transforms and he puts another level between us and him. The Sky Deck. Not too big a fan of this one. The aesthetics are engaging, giving us the idea we're actually traversing across this massive battle station a la Wing Fortress. I like the opening section the best, having to climb the scaffolding while avoiding this massive cannon. Because of the narrower level design, I feel like I'm paying more attention to the enemies here too. I don't even mind the section afterwards, where the floor is lowering beneath you in chunks. I like being able to see those drones that were after us during Sky Chase be deployed here. It gives a nice feeling of synergy between the level design and the rest of the world. I could do without the last bit. By the end, Eggman is engaging in reckless driving to get rid of us, and that leads to some anti-gravity platforming that gives your movement the same feeling you'd get from fisting a jar of peanut butter. It's too cumbersome and sticky, is my point. What came before wasn't the best of Sonic's campaign by any measure, but this ending can be kind of annoying to play through, and it knocks this level down a few mental pegs. Though, I like to remind everyone, we're grading on a curve. Finally, we find Amy at the end of Sky Day. Listen, Doctor, I cannot allow another woman into tarot cards back into my life. Everything will collapse. Oh, he just wanted the bird. I guess it swallowed that Chaos Emerald? They really just leave those lying around, huh? Holy shit, Eggman brought a gun. Here we have another character battle. It's exactly the same, except with Gamma's player mechanics being used instead of Knuckles. Does the shotgun attached to that robot make much of a difference? No. Somehow, To my surprise, the crazy lady is convinced the toaster with legs has feelings and so I cannot kill it. Damn. You know, after all this, I sure hope Gamma gets to live through this story. How'd they get there? Eggman escapes not but maybe 20 feet above us, which we can't reach until we flip the reverse switch in the captain's quarters. I can appreciate the details the devs threw in to flesh out the world. I mean, who else would build a motorized chair that size? Oh hey, Big is here. How the fuck did he get up here? Apparently he was gonna 1v1 the giant killer Teardrop, so why don't we tag in to make sure he doesn't become a big purple stain. This is the boss where the Ancient Light will do extra damage. It makes the pacing more manageable since you first have to freeze him with these icy slits provided by Eggman Industries TM. You know, the God of Destruction is really having a hard time against these cartoons. His plans foiled yet again, Eggman drifts away and Sonic, now finally able to grow those bat wings, leaps off the egg carrier in an intense aerial chase. Nah, I'm just kidding, he dies. I know plans are for nerds and Sonic is too cool for that, but what was this supposed to solve? You have a buddy that can fly. For some reason, after sustaining a pretty horrific brain injury, Sonic starts to see the orb again and believes it is leading him into the ancient temple we made a hedgehog-shaped crater next to. Sonic follows the whims of his concussion and that leads us into our penultimate stage, the Lost World. I really want to love this level, by God. Its atmosphere is a welcome change from place that is high, and the gimmicks go a ways to make this location feel strange and ancient. There's even an obligatory Indiana Jones boulder chase that Sonic wins because he's faster than Harrison Ford. The problems come in when so much of this level doesn't function the way it's supposed to. The opening area where the giant snake takes you along rising waters is fine, it works. But can someone tell me what I'm doing wrong with these mirrors? You're in the dark and you have to point these beams of light at the nearest mirror to light up the stage, but I swear it should not be this aggravating trying to find the sweet spot to trigger that. I got kinda rhythm down the more I had to do it, where I come in at an arc from the bottom and that got me better results, but I refuse to put this failure on me. The echidna has fucked up the programming here. You can't even leave the spotlight until God deems you've hit the correct pixel and he can let there be light. The final area has you ascending the interior of the temple on these magnetic plates you have to hit switches to move so different chains can allow you to climb farther. These are a little finicky. Sometimes Sonic's speedier movement swings a little wider than I'd hope and I worry I'm about to walk right off, but it's a fun idea. It even kind of works, until the camera drunkenly stumbles in to piss on the couch and ruin the fun. There's an overall lack of polish to Sonic Adventure, if you couldn't tell. Sonic's campaign isn't free of that, but it's in Lost World where I felt it most get in the way of me not wanting to hurt myself or others. But now we're out of the ancient ruins, we've seen what the orb wanted us to see, back to business. We happen to catch the round bastard flying to the base he set up at some point. I guess him and Tails were on opposite ends of a real estate feud. The key to this door puzzle, by the way, is to just run around until it opens. This takes us to Final Egg, the last full level of Sonic's campaign. It's intimidating enough. I like the way the transforming feature from the egg carrier is implemented here to add to the already massive scope of the level. I feel like the Death Egg of Sonic 3 and Knuckles was still the better finale, just because it had that scope, but also new and interesting mechanics, so that it came across that much more daunting. Final Egg is still a fun and challenging level to play through though, and I can understand why, at the end, the focus lands more on pure platforming challenge. Once you make it to the end, Sonic is thrown into the last boss of his campaign, the Egg Viper, and we're given the opportunity to finally put some pencils into Eggman's ear canal. This is definitely the best boss so far. You have to actually stay on the move during the attack phase, and as the fight goes on, more of the level is destroyed to accelerate the tension. There's even multiple phases to this one, so you have to be on your toes for more than just the same wet slap from Chaos. I will say though, sometimes it's hard to judge the distance it will take for Sonic's homing attack to activate. There was a few times I just shot straight past an enemy I really wanted to murder, but it doesn't happen often enough to be more than a very occasional annoyance. Unless you're the Egg Viper, in which case Sonic's brain tumor starts acting up and he loses any depth perception. I had to start using the Ancient Light during the final phase for my own sanity. Once you give Eggman another third degree, that puts an end to Sonic's story. We get to watch him reunite with his buddy Tails and point on forevermore. Hell yes. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by being upfront and saying this was the best campaign. It's the most substantial, and so much of the other stories use remixed level design and areas you visit as the blue character. He was clearly the main focus, and I gotta admit, I had quite a lot of fun spin-dashing around these levels. Save for most of Casinopolis, there's not really a level I dread having to replay. Not even the technical shortcomings of Lost World can really bring down such a solid set of 3D roller coaster rides that are a joy to experience. Oh my god, he lip syncs the song at the end. Damn. They were really confident in this technology. From here on out, we mostly get altered versions of Sonic stages to explore with these new characters and playstyles. Some are more justifiable than others, but none are as long as Sonic's campaign. You're only stuck with the diabetic cat for a few levels. Let's take a gander at our amigos' stories to see what they were doing while Sonic was busy looking for a kleptomaniac cylinder and falling from a high altitude. Knuckles opens his tail on Angel Island, realizing he has no idea why he's even there. Good place to start. Suddenly, the Master Emerald shatters and chaos emerges, along with the orb just kind of getting blown around in the wind. Without the Master Emerald to power it, the floating island crashes into the sea once again, with some very dramatic FMVs setting the stage. Knuckles really could give a shit about the wet prisoner, it seems. The man just wants his jewelry back. Tails, on the other hand, almost becomes one with an office building because he did some math wrong. This plane crash leads directly into Sonic's story, and most of the beats here are just that from Tails' perspective. Unfortunately, this can lead to some odd pacing at times. I want to fly around as my cool fox friend, but the game makes me fight a boss I've already beaten before I can do any of that. To the game's credit, there are things done to differentiate the overlap in the campaigns. Dr. Eggman is written and performed much more menacingly in Tails' story cutscenes because you're meant to be experiencing events from his perspective. It's not enough to justify the Egg Hornet again, but it's a touch I appreciate. Once the game is on, Tails, like the quick critter before him, opens the way to Windy Valley and we get to see how he plays. Much like the Genesis days, Tails and Knuckles both use Sonic's movement as a base to add unique character-specific abilities. The mutant child can still fly for a short time, but instead of replaying the full levels with this game-breaking ability, the devs have cut sections of Sonic stages and remixed some of the level design. In Tails' case, you get to race your good buddy to the goal at the end of a given stage. It's pretty brain-dead, I will not lie. There are these rings you're supposed to aim for that will send you dashing through them, blowing past your hedgehog companion. Once you start hitting these, the flying becomes mostly automated. It's hard to lose already, but this isn't me interacting with altered platforming design that makes the most of Tails' abilities in a 3D space. I'm touching rings. The kid is a fucking cheat too, those do not look like natural occurrences. Knuckles fares a little better here. His style of play makes these revisits more substantial, like I'm engaging with familiar territory in a new and interesting way. He decides he's going to look for the Master Emerald wherever, but that doesn't help me much, so after consulting the orb, I break into City Hall and we play through the final section of Speed Highway again in search of the missing pieces. The name of the game is to search these open spaces looking for 3 shards of the Master Emerald in each level. You've got a radar that will light up whenever you're near any of the slivers, so glide around and take your pick on whichever one Knuckles' prostate vibrates at. That's canonically how he senses them, don't look at me like that. Speed Highway is a fine opener, but I actually prefer Knuckles' version of Casinopolis. He gets to explore the main casino area and avoid having to play slots. Thank fucking God. This is actually a big appeal to Knuckles' story, getting to explore new parts of the level that Sonic and Tails have already been to. No more gambling, just climbing through these cool Vegas set pieces looking for my shards. I have less fun as Tails. We go through the sewer portion again, only now these fans that are supposed to push you upwards automatically, I now have to manually ascend by thumbing the jump button. A fun benefit of this is that because the momentum physics are still active, if you thumb too hard, you can blow right past the exit. I do not know if it's supposed to be this way, but it happened every time. I get stuck on shit in Ice Cap too. What is it with these characters constantly trying to marry the edge geometry? At least when Tails humps these icicles, it makes the race more compelling. See, I can be a glass half full person. I'll die one day. That's optimistic. Knuckles' hunt for the emerald pieces takes him back to the Mystic Ruins, where we get the Shovel Claw, allowing us to dig up the monkey suicide button Eggman built and head to the best stage in Knuckles' campaign. Red Mountain. We zipline past this bit of Sonic, so the designers have the freedom to really craft the level around Knuckles' movement. There's a few areas Knuckles can climb around at varying elevations, and the stage is vast and open enough that gliding across the landscape is completely uninhibited. Use those dreads to ride the wind from summit to summit. I can even appreciate the small tweaks made to our movement in the process of introducing this red creature to a Z-axis. Knuckles now rolls out of a glide rather than statically falling downward. That means that in this 3D space, where gliding into enemies is less reliable, you can comfortably exit the animation into a ball without fear of getting smacked around on the way down. Knuckles is just fun to move around with, to climb and soar between these large open areas. All Tails got were those fucking rings. And he gets to redo the weakest parts of Sonic's campaign since he was following the dude around for most of it. Case in point, we fight Knuckles again. And, just like in Sonic's adventure, we get to go another round with Chaos 4. Man, of all the gameplay to spread across multiple stories, why did they choose the bosses? I'm so sick of Chaos 4. God damn it. At least the arena feels best suited for Knuckles, since he can glide between the lily pads to avoid the sticky lake water. Oh, don't get me wrong though. I'm still upset. Thank God this biplane has homing missiles. Do you think Tails has a few war crimes in there too? Finally, once we're shot down in Sky Chase, we're in uncharted territory for Tails. It turns out the main thing he got on the way down was the start of a character arc. Because in his coma, Tails hallucinates the day he first met Sonic, and he awakes reminiscing on all the ways his life has changed since becoming friends with that homeless guy. I think everybody involved just kind of gave the fuck up trying to get you on the move, so the connective stitchwork here is a little messy. You have to wander through the worst section of any hub world in the game, the jungle map in Mystic Ruins. Turns out there's a whole South American rainforest around that Pizzagate temple from earlier. It sucks. Every fucking square inch of this place looks like it has the same repeating texture pasted over and over and over. Winding paths with very few landmarks makes having to navigate this one physically taxing. Just look at the map here. I guess it's to simulate the feeling the developers got on location. Lost. But don't worry, if you wander long enough, then God will take pity on you and eventually lead you via divine light to a Chaos Emerald that all the friendly NPCs in this jungle will die trying to find. Unfortunately, a frog comes by and grabs the stone to sell on Craigslist, so we gotta catch it by racing down Sand Hill, another boarding level. Fun fact, this was inspired by the team witnessing real-life sandboarding in South America, and they felt it would make for an interesting level. Another fun fact, like Ice Cap, it's exhilarating when the character model decides not to violently react to another polygon. Also, in my experience, it's kind of up to Lady Luck how much of this you'll experience in any given playthrough. Tails catches the frog, but it turns out to be poisonous, and upon contact, he begins tripping balls, clinically speaking. He's taken back to when the Mystic Ruins was the hotspot for Echidna child sacrifices. You can get the Rhythm Badge here. It lets you tail spin indefinitely, making this horrific acid trip worth it to me, the player. Knuckles must have just missed Tails in this jungle, which is easy to do. Guess what baby Einstein gets to do in here, by the way? Wander. Once you dig up the key to the temple, Knuckles is granted access to Lost World. This is a reuse of a section from Sonic's run-through where he was climbing the magnetic tiles. Because you can freely climb wherever, the challenge then becomes pretty brain dead. This level wasn't very interesting. The orb then shits us out back on Angel Island, and Knuckles is able to mostly reconstruct the Master Emerald, save for the last 3 pieces. His prostate senses they must be on the egg carrier, and thankfully Gamma got lost on his way back to the battleship, so we can follow him to Eggman's base for takeoff. That's the narrative explanation anyway. Gamma just disintegrates after this cutscene, and you're meant to intuit that you've got to head to the Jungle Fortress. On your way there though, be sure to pick up the fighting gloves, which gives Knuckles the final heat attack, during which he charges up his repressed sexual energy into a devastating punch. Now we're ready to really unleash our heat on the Fat Doctor and get our well-deserved revenge. Tails has finally recovered from his frog tripping due to the smell of Big the unbathed cat snapping him back to reality. Thanks, Big. With our Chaos Emerald in hand, we're now ready to embark for the egg carrier in our special Tornado 2 prototype. Man, Tails is so cool. Look at his little mountain base and his secret hangar for the more nuclear devices in his workshop. I love you, little dude. Now fly high and get your best bud off of that fucking mountain. For this return to Sky Chase Act 2, I decided to try a new tactic. Spray and pray. They didn't change a damn thing. Alright, we're back in familiar territory now. All our key players are on the egg carrier, ready to fuck up Eggman's life goal of owning a citywide apartment complex. He won't go down easy, and once again this massive battleship transforms and puts the sky deck between us and him. It just so happens that the final Master Emerald pieces are there too, so Tails and Knuckles both make for their next level. I like parts of Tails' sky deck where we can fly and make tight landings on these narrow platforms. I mean, it's a reuse of the start of Sonic's version of this level, but it's designed so that I don't mind going through it again with Tails' flight ability. Also, the voice lines that Sonic throws out during these stages are cute too.
See you later, Tails!
I'm less a fan of Knuckles' run of this level. It's just too empty and spacious for its own good. And there's this tilt gimmick that I used to find 1 emerald piece. I would have appreciated a little more intentionality in that design, given the rest of the level has got jack shit else going on. There's little pockets of things here and there, but it takes forever to find the last emerald piece because of how large this space is, and I just wasn't having a great time by the end of this one. While Knuckles spends his time digging around the sky deck, Sonic and Tails get ready to face Gamma, who now gets to lose to a spinning child. Tails spares him because it's easier than reasoning with the crazy pink lady. At Sonic's behest, we fly her away from danger, leaving him alone to face Eggman and Chaos. Knuckles just misses that fight, apparently. Though, check out his reaction to the blinding light signifying the birth of Chaos 6. What the fuck was that take? I'll take the time to mention here that the voice acting stays pretty stiff and even downright strange for the most part, although this group of actors would turn in better performances when they weren't reading a horribly mistranslated script and given actual vocal direction. I think the lady who played the orb just worked in their office. This is the part where Knuckles shows up to watch Sonic fall to his death. Chaos 6 is able to resurrect itself before our very eyes, and we've got to battle it one last time as Knuckles. Turns out, you beat him the same way as Sonic, but the ice slits drop at the start of each phase now. You just gotta chuck him at him. Cool. I don't know if the final heat speeds this up or not, but I like to do it anyways. We kick his ass so bad it crashes the egg carrier, and Knuckles glides away while an MP4 of the ship exploding plays behind him. He lands on Angel Island to restore the Master Emerald, and with the Emerald Hole once more, the ancient island ascends from the sea, leaving Knuckles content with his lack of knowledge about anything if it means he doesn't have to get up again. That is fair, buddy. Tails still has a bit to go. We ditch the broad and notice Eggman is here too, and he's getting ready for the nuclear option. I don't know, man. I feel like the nuke was always the safer bet compared to the puddle of ultimate annihilation prophesized by a group of dead Mayans. But whatever, maybe he just wanted the place to be inhabitable in the next century. Not anymore, though. Now we're going Joker mode. Wait a second. It was a dud? How does he do anything? This opens the door to the finale of Tails' arc. One final race against Dr. Eggman, who wants to get to the warhead first so he can detonate it by hand and be the first vaporized, I guess. Tails, with zero sense of urgency, asserts that his time with Sonic has made him a hero, and that he need not rely on the blue one to save the city from nuclear holocaust. Tails, I hate to tell you, you really gotta go, buddy. The stakes are high, but this is by far the best level of Tails' campaign. You race Eggman through Speed Highway, though it's been heavily altered here. The designers have tweaked the level around Tails' flight, challenging that particular movement instead of putting rings down that have you skip chunks of the level. Oh, but don't worry, they're still here. This was a blast. It makes me wish there was a ton more fat trimmed and we were able to get more character-specific level designs across the three amigos. I'm getting ahead of myself. Tails still has a final boss of his own, the Egg Walker. It is fine. No more difficult than most of the other bosses. It escalates alright, but never really becomes challenging in any way. But hey, Tails put his confidence on the line and is lauded as a hero for beating up that old schizophrenic guy. His arc fulfilled, Tails flies away with newfound belief in himself, and takes a really fucking long time to join his friend in the Mystic Ruins so he too can lip sync into the sunset. Take it for what they are, I enjoy how both of these narratives wrap up. Tails got himself a nice little arc, Knuckles returned home content, these land for me. Hell, that would have been enough if so much of the gameplay wasn't the most uninteresting bits of the main story recycled back to me. I think Knuckles' campaign had more meat on its bones, but at their best, both campaigns hit the same level of quality. Both reused quite a bit of Sonic's levels, though when given altered level design to fit their particular playstyle, the shackles come off, and for brief moments you get to experience the heights of these characters in the third dimension. When it works, it's fun as hell. As fun as Sonic's campaign. But so much is bitingly average about their stages when so little is done to accommodate our new movement that I'm back to wishing we could have cut some things to really make sure each of Tails' levels were of the same quality as Speed Highway or as Knuckles' Red Mountain. As it stands, the adventures are quick but repetitive. Still, some great levels are smushed in there if you're willing to do the digging. But enough about these fucking guys. We need some diversity in here. So why don't we take a look at this lady, a robot, and this tumor. So one thing you have to know about Sonic Adventure is that much of its additions were due to the expectation that it would function as a tech demo for the Dreamcast itself. The Dreamcast was host to a ton of fishing games, so to entice players into those, you better add the damn cat. Just keep that in mind as we explore these last three campaigns that were made to broaden appeal. The first of these new characters gives us a peek behind the curtain at how the strangely shaped man runs this operation. We open on the birth of E-102 Gamma, part of a series of robots built by Eggman to do his dirty work. Would you believe that this guy turns out to be a pretty shitty father? The first thing he does is make you run the gauntlet through just the tiniest sliver of Final Egg, where you blow up dolls your dad made in effigy to a group of children he has a weird obsession with. This is meant to teach you the basics of Gamma's shooting mechanics. Here you have a limited amount of time, and only the blood of your lesser cousins can add to that ever-decreasing time limit. We'll have a better chance to move around as our new robot pal later. For now, we have to go tell Dad we made it to the end of this hallway. Eggman can't even muster up the manly courage to tell us he's proud. No, instead we get,
I didn't think you had what it takes.
I didn't ask to be born. Furthering his abuse not just towards me, but to all his children, Eggman has us fight our older brother Beta for his continued attention. Once his boys have fired enough buckshot at each other, Dad declares me the winner, but agrees to keep Beta around for spare parts. This man is a monster. Turns out Dad is going to shower us with attention aboard the Egg Carrier, his state-of-the-art battleship that not one, but 3 former presidents have flown in. We'd best prepare for takeoff. Our next adventure begins in the jungles of the Mystic Ruins, where it looks like the first thing Chaos did upon being freed from his prison was fuck up this frog, and Big awakes to find a new growth coming from his friend. I guess forming a tail really burns some calories because Froggy gets hungry and eats Big's lucky charm, which just happens to be a fucking Chaos Emerald. You know what? Why not? Why shouldn't he have one? The fuck is this thing supposed to do about the energy crisis? This frog has got to be irradiated at this point, but that won't deter Big, who chases his friend all the way to Station Square. And hey, I rag on Big, but just listen to how distressed he sounds.
Froggy, wake up!
I can never hate him, he just wants his nuclear buddy back. Unfortunately, for all the charm of Big's character, We still have to play as him. The orb tells me to go look in the sewers, and this freakish monument to my own insanity simply lifts a fucking car and lumbers into those sewers, leading us to Twinkle Park, Big's first stage. The music is way too exciting for this. You fish. That's all you do. Aim your throw with the reticle and watch the lure sink. Sometimes you can wiggle the stick like you're tugging the rod, and it will sometimes move the hook. Hold the action button to reel it in, and hopefully this movement entices your frog friend to go for a nibble. I mean, seriously, how fun does this look? Let's simulate one of the most boring things to do in real life in our action platformer. Well, it's accurate, Mr. Voice in my head. After some time, Froggy goes for a bite and then freaks the fuck out with that hook piercing his mouth. This tension bar to the side is the only true obstacle to a successful fishing trip. If you're reeling in too hard or fast against Froggy's movement, then the line breaks and you lose a life. To combat this, hold the action button in bursts and make sure your thumb goes numb from wiggling the analog stick to tire the little fucker out. You don't even manage to catch Froggy at the end. He hops away at lightning speed, leaving Big to have an episode, surrounded by all the fish I couldn't be bothered to catch. Upon leaving Twinkle Park, Oh, hey Amy. She's thinking about going shopping. What a silly and womanly thing to do. Yeah, it turns out she meant grocery shopping. She even gets her own hot girl music to accompany her strut through the city, holding carrots and celery and such. Amy reminisces on the Sonic CD days, where she's giving a fairly charitable description of chasing bad guys to that time Sonic drug her by the neck across Stardust Speedway. Suddenly, the egg carrier blots out the sun, and a bird escaping the fate of becoming a badnik battery collides into us. We save it from that detestable tube and vow to protect our new feathered friend. All of this goes out the window pretty quick when we happen to run into and then subsequently freak out Sonic the Hedgehog, who we make a mission of pursuing. Damn, he really wants nothing to do with Amy from her perspective. We catch up to him, but of course our woman brain, much like the birds, is easily distracted by shiny things, and Amy gets lost in a place called Twinkle Park. They actually reuse Big's fishing arena as the opening here, though functioning now as an open area to get accustomed to Amy's movement. You can move faster than Big, at least. And when Amy reaches top speed, she can do a hammer jump. Let's see how they take advantage of this. They stuck her in a cramped haunted house. Damn, I guess we're walking. This level design is fun. It's pretty standard and unexciting platforming made serviceable by the aesthetic. Amy gets stuck on edges just the same as everybody else, but she takes forever to recover, so when that happens I kinda want to throttle somebody before I'm grabbed by Eggman's evil robot with the bad touch hands. This thing is chasing you throughout the levels, so you gotta stay ahead of him and give him a whack if he gets too close, lest he manage to squeeze you. That actually happens anyway, as you'll recall, and Amy gets nabbed by Zero and is carted off to be waterboarded, or however Eggman interrogates these freaks. Hold on. Yeah, sorry, Big's trying to swallow the ice stone. We'd best get back to him. Apparently the frog has purchased a train ticket and taken a ride all the way to the Mystic Ruins, so we fish that stone from our gullet and follow him. Big waddles through this frozen entrance, and that grants us access to the life belt, gifting this massive creature with buoyancy in open bodies of water. Why does he climb ladders so fast? Well, it doesn't matter. Welcome to Ice Cap, where you can use boulders or your own mass to smash through the ice and get to fishing. But hey, ice fishing's a neat idea. I still hate this. You could platform around and find these pools with freaky looking prehistoric fish, but why would you do that? Froggy's right here. He does have the oh so wonderful habit of getting stuck on the edge of the ice and clipping out of reality, which doesn't kill you, but fills me with rapturous glee every time it happens. Ooh yay! More fishing! Froggy escapes yet again, and I guess since Big is in no shape to snowboard, he's got to use the escalator, giving Froggy enough time to give Tails his brain hemorrhage. Big's stealthy approach fails, and the frog is jolted back to life. I guess he buys another train ticket because we're headed all the way back to Station Square, where we watch our amphetamine-bellied amphibian companion hop into Emerald Coast. At least the scenery is nice. And it's mercifully short, since now we can float right next to Froggy in these giant pools of ocean water. I think Big might chill here and relax a bit. It's been a long day. Back on the egg carrier, we see that Dad has set up a really elaborate production to show us a picture of this really cool frog he found. This is a strange workplace. We're sent to retrieve the super neat frog with the cancerous growth, leading to Gamma's first real chance to stretch those robotic limbs. He's another character whose basic movement they nailed here. At top speed, his legs turn to treads, and you have mastery over just about any terrain. Gamma isn't as fast as Sonic, but his interactions with the level feel just as natural. It's a shame about that time limit, though. It's just way too lax to add any pressure or tension to these run-throughs, which is a real shame because if the clock was stricter, I can see how it would be fun to blast through Gamma's stages, constantly forced to add to that ever-decreasing timer. But as it stands, I still like to roll around as the robot. Big is just having a real rough go of it, though. Give him his friend back, you bastard. We bring the frog back to the egg carrier, where Eggman declares us the alpha of the litter and vaporizes our brothers in front of our synthetic eyes. My dad used to do that. Our next task is to retrieve a familiar-looking bluebird from the ship's brig, though if you take a wrong turn, you can catch your older brother being vivisected. Seeing this clearly cuts Gamma to the core.
This is the wrong room.
Once you get back on track, you meet Amy and her kidnapped bird friend. I actually prefer this scene from Amy's perspective because Gamma goes, "Hand over the bird," and Amy says no about 12 different ways, and then Gamma just goes, "Quietly hand over the bird." Amen, brother. The scene progresses pretty much the same way afterwards, with the bird being so cute it gives Gamma the power to feel love and therefore fear death. I guess it's gonna take him a bit to get to that last part, because for now he frees Amy and the critter that taught him to care, and begs her to get the fuck away from him. After she leaves, you can get the jet booster, letting Gamma hover and adding an extra layer to his movement. It's a fun mechanic you'll get to see when the ground is not pummeling the camera into sorrowful submission. Amy does indeed fuck off, though first she has to beat Eggman's hammer game. The guy sounds genuinely upset if you get a higher score.
What? I can't believe this is happening!
For this, we're rewarded with the warrior feather, granting Amy the ability to do a stationary hammer spin. I hope nobody out there enjoys watching me do that attack, because this is the only time it happens. The way to the bridge is through the hot shelter, a level specific to these three characters. You'd think that would mean the designers were able to tailor the platforming around what makes Amy's movement unique and actually fun, rather than running around with a GIMP top speed. So I guess we can consider it a bad omen that even the gimmicks are needlessly slow and tedious. Slowly turn this handle to open the door. Watch as the colored keys ever so slowly float into place. This isn't made tense by nature of the chase, especially because I can just whack the guy while he takes a century to target me. At least they didn't skimp on the level aesthetics here. We're traveling through an industrial aquarium, out through the robot restroom, and through a massive portion of the egg carrier's inner workings as we run along giant gears while pipes belch steam all around us. There's even a cool set piece with Zero bursting through the monitor room. That stuff is neat. Playing through it is less so. At the very end, you can kind of use Amy's hammer jump to effectively platform along these ramps, a reward for keeping up the speed because our girl does not do slopes well, but scarcely little is done to justify her unique movement. It mostly just feels like Sonic with a limp. Or Big if he did CrossFit. Eggman catches us on the bridge and extracts the Chaos Emerald from the colon of that bird. He may have actually done it a favor. We've seen this plenty of times before, only from Gamma's perspective, Amy steps in and sweetly appeals to the robot's better nature, giving some payoff to the build-up we've been getting in regards to Gamma's art. It's sweet, okay? This is a sweet story. I love this and these stupid characters. From there, Amy flies off with Tails and Gamma hovers down to the Mystic Ruins, vowing to free his brothers from the clutches of our abusive father. We're not done on the egg carrier just yet, because it turns out there's a stowaway bumbling through these halls. Where did he hide? Now it's Big's turn to progress through Hot Shelter, reusing the industrial aquarium aesthetic from Amy's level. It's neat that we have to drain the water again, only instead of using the platforms to progress, we now have access to Froggy and tons of other freakish creatures Eggman held hostage in his plumbing. Guess what though? I still hate this. If you're going to be bored while playing Sonic Adventure, you at least get to be bored while listening to Sonic Adventure's soundtrack. We gotta highlight that music while we have some downtime here. It's one of the best selection of tracks in any Sonic game. The OST leans more towards rock in terms of genre, but there's bombast from all kinds of inspirations. A little jazz here and a little hip-hop there make each track distinct with their own musical flavor. It adds to the scope as levels are fleshed out and get new musical identities with the changing sceneries. And Knuckles raps too.
Here I come, rougher than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather.
Each character gets their own theme, usually a vocal track, on top of an already stacked list of level and hub world themes. The music is one of the strongest aspects of Sonic Adventure's presentation, and it almost turns Big's fishing levels into jam sessions. Almost. This is it. We've got Froggy, and now Big steels himself for the arduous journey out of this mechanical hellscape, worried that no one would possibly bother to save them now. You got this, buddy. Just remember, in Christ, all things are possible. Also, These are the only train doors Big can fit through because they were built by the only human to share his girth. Speaking of, Eggman catches us on the bridge and has Froggy vomit up the emerald before merging him with Chaos, giving the beast his tail but stealing our friend once again. Well, it was fun, Big, but I guess it's time to watch this beloved character get stomped to death while his best friend drowns in a giant malevolent raindrop. Wait, I've spoken too soon it seems, for here's Sonic the Hedgehog, the most pious of all Christ subjects, here to help our good buddy Big, just for the hell of it. What a guy. Hey, let's grab the frog and let him take care of the god of destruction. Still miles above ground, it once again looks like all hope is lost, until Big finds the Tornado 2 left where Tails had his crash landing. Do you think this beast knows the first thing about flying an advanced aerial prototype? He doesn't have a damn clue. But by God, he's gonna try. Miraculously, Big does not become a smoldering stain somewhere in the Mystic Ruins, and now that Froggy is free of Chaos's influence, the boys are able to go back to easy living. Fishing the days away and having episodes on the monuments to dead kings. Big, how did you even get up there? I know you didn't climb those stairs. Gamma's hunt takes him nearby, where we fight through Windy Valley to reach E102 Delta at the end. This one's fun. It's mostly a reuse of Sonic's opener here. You can even shoot out the bridges, forcing it to get used to the hover ability. You find out at the end that Gamma doesn't intend to free his brothers from Eggman's control, he means to free them from the fever of living itself. Or he's freeing the birds. Either way, I like that this robot took a look at the worth of artificial living and said, fuck that, I gotta get us out of here. Our next target is in the Red Mountain, and I gotta say, Gamma's campaign keeps getting better in quality. I feel like the designers have chosen parts of Sonic's levels that best accommodate Gamma's speed and movement. We hover over lava here, we turn our legs to treads and run along the wall like a heavier Sonic. Gamma slots in nicely to design here. His level selection is undoubtedly the best from these deformed cousins of the latter campaigns. Meanwhile, left alone again, Amy realizes she ought to be more independent and not so focused on winning Sonic's affection. Thank God. She vows to reunite her bird friend with his captured family all on her own, taking us on the hunt for Eggman's secret base. You're ready to mosey on over to his jungle fortress in the Mystic Ruins.
I don't remember this bridge. Looks dangerously suspicious.
Amy, honey, who do you think built that? This leads us to Final Egg, Amy's best level. Because she plays so differently than Sonic, much of this has been altered, but there's a verticality to the level that's been kept to make the most of Amy's hammer jump. Even the enemies here seem designed to be taken out with a well-placed hammer jump. And you can avoid certain level hazards by leaping over them, having you interact with the design in a way that Sonic couldn't. It's not the best character-specific platform the game has on offer or anything, but it's squeezed a decent bit of fun out of Amy's campaign here at the end. It's a wasted trip ultimately because there's not a trace of the bird's parents. Amy surmises that they must be on the egg carrier, since that's where our tiny friend escaped from, so that's where we gotta head. You get him, girl. Gamma's in a similar pickle, realizing the rest of his kin must be aboard the crashed ship. Getting to the wreckage is actually kind of neat to figure out. If you talk to these NPCs, they'll mention that the egg carrier crashed out in the ocean, and that if you had a boat, you could get access to it. Thankfully, you can see here that there's a boat just downstairs, so once you clip through it, the boat takes you out to the floating hub. Functionally, the egg carrier is still the same, but it's a neat change to the aesthetic for the last bits of these character stories. And they're really saving the best levels for last year because Gamma's Hot Shelter is a blast. The platforming is designed around his movement specifically, so you get to hover around and shoot through arenas made for you. There's some personality to this level too, as we roll through explosions we cause by shooting at the set dressing and enemies in our path. The stage broadens out to a fun train sequence at the end, making for what has to be the best level out of the odd trio of freaks I'm currently playing as. Unfortunately, that fear of death is starting to kick in, and Gamma realizes the only two robots left to be freed are Beta and himself. He doesn't have much time to think about the implications of this because we're attacked by the souped-up Beta Mark II, the latest of Eggman's diabolical disfigurings of our dear beloved brother. I haven't talked about the bosses in Gamma stages because so far we've mostly just been bullying them. Even when my younger bro was turned into a giant missile dispenser, it was the same jig. Shoot it until it dies. This is a fast process. Beta though, they crammed the best boss of the game into the end of this Calculators campaign. Seriously, this was a fun fight. His attacks are a decent challenge to both my movement and shooting play, and they layer nice as the phases progress. I like this one a lot. You know, I like Gamma a lot. Too bad he's gotta kill himself. His story ends with memories of his feathered life leaking through, and Gamma self-destructs to rescue the mother inside him, freeing her to live a peaceful life with her bird family. Shut up, dude, I'm not crying. Amy must have just missed this too, because she shows up with a little baby bird with his little bird family already hovering to meet him. Too bad Zero swam all the way over here and gives the bird a right smack on the noggin. I think it might be dead. Now Amy's got to put her money where her mouth is and beat Zero to death with her hammer. It's kind of annoying getting Zero correctly positioned to be smacked into the ring here, but it's a fine fight.
See, I can do this.
Aw, you go, Amy. She leaves that final boss with newfound confidence, strutting away to that hot girl tune and proclaiming that when Sonic finally notices her, she'll be someone out of his league. She relapses quick. Don't worry about her bird friend, by the way. He returns from the pearly gates and flies away with his parents, now free of the robotic chains put on them by their diabetic overlord. It's a sweet ending made sweeter by Gamma's story as the bird family flies into the sunset. Man, the back half of these stories seems to be where all the best moments got crammed in. Unless you're big, I guess. He's pretty hopeless. The more melodic music helps, especially the piano rendition of Gamma's theme that plays during his ending. Gamma just has the best campaign out of these new faces. Not only are his levels the best, but his story has some real heart to it. Maybe it's because the robot doesn't have a face for them to freakishly animate, but the cold and logic-driven robot being shown kindness and deciding to leave his old life behind to free his brothers, knowing that ultimately he's got to blow himself up in the end, that story shines through, despite, the coat of paint being really poorly translated and weird to look at sometimes. It's just that level timer, man. Gameplay-wise, Amy occupies the same place that my memories of TV static do. They're boring at worst, and they never go beyond numbingly fine. I wish they did more with her, because while I'm not a fan of the slower ground speed, I think more vertical level design rewarding hammer jumps would have gone a lot further to justify Amy's separate playstyle. Do I even need to go into big? I guess I can see how efficient a game like this could be relaxing, but this is the last thing I want to do in my action platformer. Except for maybe the Holocaust. Look, part of me does wish that back in the day the developers could have sacrificed what is only serviceable to strengthen what is truly incredible about Sonic Adventure. But it's not like there's nothing to love in these latter campaigns taken for what they are. The level aesthetics, for one thing, never let up on quality and spectacle, and as the stories progress, you can feel the heart behind these campaigns. You notice the effort being made to have this work, and have it work emotionally too, not just be exemplary from the gameplay alone. It's not that I think intent matters more than the craft of the execution or anything, but these guys were playing tunes on outdated instruments in uncharted lands. At this point, you really should just listen to the passion behind the music. Before we end Sonic Adventure, let's take a brief detour to an element of the game I'm sure plenty of unwashed individuals are salivating over. The Chow Garden. You remember those adorable little things that were chilling at the altar of ultimate power, right? Well, here you're giving your own Chow to hatch and force into race wars with other Chow of varying genetic purity. I like to throw my eggs at the wall until they hatch, making sure all my babies come out either extra durable or in need of a wheelchair. No in-betweens. I named this one MC Ride. Those little critters you've been collecting from badniks end up here too, and your Chow will gobble up their life essence and assimilate their traits to fare better in the competition. There's also a black market where you can buy premium toys for your Chow, like an empty can. I went ahead and bought this dark trait fruit from the guy because Death Grips is so dark and twisted. I don't know what these fruit affect. I'm running on vibes through this part. Okay, MC Ride has become enough of a freak show to take part in these Chow races, where you cheer your little bastard on as they roll fruit in a general direction. The goal here is to mash the button until your fucking thumb falls off. In the second race we participated in, MC Ride got turned around and went the wrong way for about half of it, so maybe I shouldn't have birthed them with brute force. Well, that's all the patience I have for the Chow Garden. There's a very intricate trait system and hidden values if you want to try breeding the ultimate Chow, but if you think I'm engaging with that system in any way, you don't understand what kind of person is making this. Alright, now it's time for the real closer. Once you've beaten every character's campaign, you unlock the final story, Supersonic. We open on an ominous shot of Big's new plane before Angel Island mysteriously crashes into the ocean yet again. Before we can investigate that, however, we see Eggman floating around the Mystic Ruins, probably really pissed off that he bought that nuke and he didn't even get to use it. Lucky for him, he comes across Chaos, and suddenly his plans start to come together once more. Back on Angel Island, we see a confused Knuckles wondering why he's now adrift despite the Master Emerald being fully reconstructed. He's even got the 6 Chaos Emeralds he ripped from Chaos's frosty corpse, and the island still won't float. But what's this? Eggman's been crippled. I guess he probably shouldn't have used the dripping personification of annihilation in his real estate scheme. Sonic, meanwhile, is relaxing in the Mystic Ruins when Tails runs down from his workshop.
Hey there, Tails! Did you find the tornado too?
They should probably get on then. Tails tells tale of Angel Island's sudden descent, and the two rush to investigate. Once you make your way to the island, you find Knuckles has joined Eggman in getting a severe spinal injury from Chaos. The Doctor complains of Chaos's betrayal, and Knuckles warns Sonic that the monster ran away with his 6 emeralds. Oh look guys, it's the orb! It's time to reveal the secret of the orb! So throughout each campaign, the orb will teleport our characters to a flashback scene of the Mystic Ruins back when they were run by the Echidna tribe. Honestly, lacking context, most of these scenes taken individually are useless and confusing, though some hide some actually relevant information. Thank God the fucking cat gets to see this. The cutscenes here basically summarize the whole conflict anyway. We see the Echidna warriors about to overtake Angel Island, where the peaceful Chow lie protected by the Chaos Emeralds. Tikal, daughter of the chief, has been worried about her father's violent conquering and expansion of their territory. She starts a burgeoning friendship with the Chow and their protector Chaos, who here is implied to himself be a Chow mutated by the power of the emeralds. In this final flashback, she pleads with her father not to take the Master Emerald for the tribe, though he ignores her and the warriors push forward. This act of selfish violence poisons Chaos's heart with rage, and he wipes the Echidna tribe to near extinction. Desperate and finally understanding the link between the Master Emerald and the 7 Lesser Gems, Tikal pleads with the stone to use its power to stop Chaos's rampage. The Master Emerald responds and seals both Tikal and Chaos away until the Emerald was shattered centuries later. Turns out this whole narrative is underpinned by a central anti-imperialist conflict, because Sonic has been a tree-hugging hippie from the start. Tikal returns Sonic from his coma, where I guess Tails and Knuckles just kinda sat there watching the man drool all over himself while receiving exposition. Knuckles got bored of watching Sonic sleep and went off to do something, while the boys here realize they've got to find the Tornado 2 before Chaos does. We know it's over at Big's place, but if we wander over there, we arrive seconds too late, as Chaos nabs the Emerald just as we arrive. Now, with ultimate power, Chaos transforms into perfect chaos, flooding Station Square. Man, this is like 9/11 times a million. I wonder what country we would have bombed for this one. Probably wherever those fucking temples were. We're all pretty fucked here, and Sonic drastically undersells the situation. Maybe it's a coping thing. But would you look at who had his second egg carrier just ready to go in case the God of Destruction went a little overkill? Eggman's here, and he's gonna back us up with his floating battle station. Nope, there he goes. Thanks for the help, idiot! The orb officially reveals herself as Tikal, who tells Sonic that Chaos's heart is filled with sadness and anger, and he must be sealed away once more, or he'll wipe away another civilization. But Sonic won't have it. He knows that imprisoning Chaos won't solve this. He wants to heal his broken heart so the creature can be at peace. But with the emeralds drained of their power, we're kinda up shit creek here. All the playable characters that didn't commit suicide now come together. Tails tells us Chaos only used the negative power of the emeralds, but through their positive feelings towards each other, Sonic can harness the gem's true power. The gang, with their hearts together, reignite the well of infinite power inside the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic alights into Super Sonic, complete with the main theme of the game kicking in to get the blood pumping. Now it's time for our final boss, Perfect Chaos. We've got typical Super Sonic mechanics. Your ring count ticks down as you play, and you've got to collect more scattered throughout the arena to extend your time. The boss itself isn't very involved. You're just supposed to run at him at full speed, dodging the projectile attacks Perfect Chaos spits at you the closer you get. Chaos even explodes into fireworks each time you hit him. The game's presentation is firing on all cylinders here. When the second phase starts, Open Your Heart begins to play and the adrenaline flows for you to do the exact same thing again with a more aggressive Perfect Chaos. And you know what? That's enough to make this feel exhilarating in the final moments, as I'm weaving between his attacks to keep the speed up for the finishing blows. I'm not exactly going to remember this boss for the fun and challenging gameplay, but the blockbuster spectacle is what sits with me. And as a finisher for this particular Sonic game, with what it prioritizes in design, I think that makes this a strong finale. The positive energy of Super Sonic was enough to purge the poison in Chaos's heart. He looks upon the Chow, and Tikal explains that these things are apparently ageless, and are the very same creatures Chaos wiped out the Echidnas to protect. Seeing them now live peacefully with humanity puts Chaos at ease, and Tikal extends her hand so they might both be free of their undead shackles. This sweet ending leads Tails to make a very inappropriate remark.
All's well that ends well, right?
Look around, man. But it looks like Sonic has decided to move on yet again, hopping through the rubble and probably on his way to shatter Eggman's femur. As I get older, I realize the narratives that connect with me are the ones with passion and vision behind them, even when the scope of the vision can outpace the quality of the execution. Especially in this age of prestige media, where so much of what we consume may be free of rough edges, but also too clean and polished to feel like anything other than a product. Which all commercial art obviously is, but as budgets balloon and creative risks are less taken, passion and vision are taking a greater backseat to standards and marketability. But when I look back at Sonic Adventure, I may get cut on some of the jagged edges, but by God, there is a dream for what this game ought to be. And a real heart behind the grand narrative these guys wanted to tell. You see them working with what they had to build that story, and though it's far from perfect and assuredly heavily compromised for the technology at the time, you can feel the vision coalesce in that space between intent and execution. It does help that we're so far removed from the game's original release that so much of its flaws and presentation can be seen as harmless relics of outdated tech. Honestly, if you haven't played Sonic Adventure yet, it's worth whatever they're charging for Sonic stages alone, I think. But I also don't want to act like there's nothing of substance even at the weakest points of the campaigns. Every corner of Sonic Adventure has something to love, some care put into realizing a globe-trotting blockbuster tale that had a greater scope than much of the platforming contemporaries at the time. I get emotional during parts of this game. My heartstrings were tugged by Gamma's death. Seeing Amy and Tails grow and learn to believe in themselves was sweet and engaging. I even want Bay to get that damn frog back, because the guy sounds so distressed without his best bud. Would the game have been better if much of the fat had been trimmed? I mean, probably, but if the execs made them add the shooting campaign, at least they put some damn love behind it. Now I'm sounding like a hippie. I'll leave you all on this then. Sonic was correct. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter now what happens, because death is the looming shadow over all meaning in our lives, blotting out purpose with its very existence. They didn't put those lyrics in the song, though. I added those.